Toaster in Time, written by Schofield.
I will always remember breakfast at my grandparents'.
Exterior grandparents' house, front door, morning. A small girl, Shea, age 7, is standing with her mom.
Every Saturday morning, my mom would drop me off on her way to work.
Interior, grandparents' house, dining room, morning. Grandma places down plate after plate of delicious breakfast meals in front of her. Her eyes widen.
Now, my grandma made the most yummy breakfasts, but what might surprise you is the toast was the best part.
Grandpa steps in with a side plate. We cannot see the top as he places it down next to the breakfast.
But this wasn't any ordinary toast. It was magical toast that transported you to new worlds.
We now see the toast with an intricate design burnt into the center. It looks like a piece of a map. We match cut quickly through different plates of toast. In the midst of the different plates, we see an island with an X marked on it.
Grandpa's toaster took us to places I could never imagine.
We see the 3 family members eating breakfast. Grandpa puts his hand on the stainless steel 2-slice toaster. A projection appears above in the empty space. It shows a wooden sailboat at sea arriving at an island. We see what looks like her much younger grandpa on the boat, in Renaissance-era clothes, cutting up a map. Shea lights up.
We need to protect the island, whatever the cost.
As I grew up, I didn't want the adventures to end.
We are looking at the young girl. We slowly see her grow up in the chair as they eat breakfast. The 3 family members are sitting at the table eating breakfast. Grandpa points at the lost island burnt into the now 12-year-old girl's toast.
It's the job of all Davenports to protect the lost island.
But it wasn't my choice. I will always hold those breakfasts close to my heart.
Cut to black. Interior, funeral home, morning. Shea, 16, is sitting on a bench next to Grandma in a large hall. She appears to be clutching something in her hand. The room is filled with family members and friends. A picture of Grandpa is sitting on an easel next to a coffin in the center of the room. Shea looks like she has been crying for days. Grandma seems to be keeping it together. There is a man sitting at the back of the room that Shea does not recognize. The ceremony ends. Shea turns to Grandma and smiles.
Would you like me to come by and cook you breakfast? We could have some eggs and toast.
Grandma's phone rings. She fumbles with it and shuts it off.
Actually, I have a very important meeting I have to get to. Come by Thursday, and I'll cook something nice up for us.
Grandma gets up and makes sure she has everything.
Oh, okay.
Grandma smiles at Shea and walks down the aisle. The man Shea doesn't recognize turns and heads out ahead of her. Shea's mom, Jackie, puts her arm around Shea as they watch Grandma.
Where's she off to in a hurry?
I don't know. I wanted to ask her about Grandpa's toaster.
I'd be surprised if that thing works anymore.
Shea's aunt walks over and steals Jackie from Shea. Shea opens her hand and unravels a piece of paper. It reads, "There's treasure in the toast." The paper is cut off at the end of the last T. Exterior grandparents' house, front lawn. A large truck is parked out front of the house. It is mostly packed away with the contents of the house. Grandma is standing on the front porch watching 2 men carry a wooden dresser down the front steps.
Be careful with that. That's an antique.
The 2 men roll their eyes. One man slips on a step and almost drops the dresser. They both look startled, then look at Grandma. She gives them an "I told you so" eyebrow. The 2 men walk down the path to reveal Shea getting out of an old station wagon. She runs up the walkway.
What's all this then?
It's your damn grandpa. That's what it is.
Another man walks by carrying a wooden side table.
Be careful with that. It's an antique.
Everything is an antique.
Grandma turns to Shea.
I see you're now driving that old thing, that old wagon. I used to drive that car, you know.
I know.
Grandma heads inside and beckons Shea to follow her. Interior, grandparents' house, kitchen. Grandma and Shea are sitting at a small table in the kitchen drinking tea. The kitchen looks mostly empty. There's 1 open and 1 packed box left on the table.
I wasn't able to salvage much, just my clothes and a few boxes.
Grandma motions towards the tea set.
I'm sorry, Grandma. I had no idea.
Nobody did. Your grandpa didn't like to talk about money. I knew we were tight, but I didn't realize we were so behind for so long.
Grandma looks like she's keeping a secret. Shea doesn't notice. Her mind is racing with questions. She finally decides on one, but there's a knock at the entrance to the kitchen doorway that interrupts her chance. Repo Man enters.
Mrs. Davenport, if I could just get your signature before we leave.
Repo Man holds up a clipboard. Grandma stands up.
These 2 boxes are all I was able to keep from my glorious kitchen.
Grandma heads towards Repo Man and motions him to turn back.
Mind if I have a look?
Grandma stops and turns back to Shea.
Be my guest. Not much worth seeing.
Grandma follows Repo Man into the hallway. Shea stands up and opens the box. She pulls out each item until the boxes are empty. No toaster. Shea looks around and starts opening the cupboards. They're all empty. Her heart is pounding. She turns to the hallway to see Grandma enter the kitchen.
What are you looking for? I said everything's left right there.
Shea pulls out the note from her pocket.
Toaster. Grandma gave me this right before he died.
Grandma watches Shea run down the hallway and out the front door. She turns to the kitchen table and notices the boxes pulled apart, along with Shea's keys and wallet. Exterior, grandparents' house, continuous. Shea starts chasing the truck as it pulls away down the street, yelling at it to stop. The truck pulls away, but Shea keeps going. The truck is almost at the end of the street, and Shea is quite a bit behind. The truck stops at a busy intersection. As the road clears and the truck starts to pull away, Shea jumps onto the back bumper and grabs a handle. The truck turns and aggressively swings Shea, but she recovers and steadies herself. Shea starts to realize this is a bad idea. The truck speeds up, and Shea pulls herself as tight to the truck as she can, squeezing her eyes closed to avoid seeing how dangerous her position is. A car behind the truck starts honking. She doesn't want to look. It's going too fast. The honking rate increases, and Shea opens her eyes for a second. We see a flash of the road behind her. It looks like her parents' car. She double takes and opens her eyes wide. Grandma's behind the wheel. She waves excitedly. Shea screams, half letting go of the handle before realizing where she is and catching herself. Grandma rolls down the window.
What are you doing? You don't have your license anymore.
Grandma puts her head out the window.
Me? I'm not the one on the back of a moving truck. Do you ever think before you act?
I'm 16. I don't have to.
The truck slows down and takes a turn without stopping. Shea is jolted. She grabs the handle tightly. Grandma, unwavering, turns quickly behind the truck, cutting off incoming traffic.
What's your plan here?
I want Grandpa's toaster.
I meant getting off the truck.
Shea looks around.
Probably just cut off to where it slows down and I can jump off.
What?
Exterior storage facility, moments later. The truck slows down as it arrives at the front gate to a storage facility. Shea jumps off the almost stopped truck and does a barrel roll. She stands up straight and sneaks into the passenger door of her car. Shea looks around. The gate to the facility opens and the truck drives in, closing behind.
Pull up over there. I gotta see where they're taking everything.
Grandma parks the car on the road along the fence of the storage facility. We are looking through a pair of binoculars. We can see the truck stop behind a car and turn off. 2 men get out of the truck. One exits the car, Clark, 48, the same man she didn't recognize at the funeral. Clark opens the storage locker. It's empty. He gestures at the back of the truck and then at the empty container. One man opens the back of the truck to reveal all of Grandma's possessions. We see a stainless steel toaster twinkling in the sun.
There he is again, that man from the funeral.
Shea pulls down her binoculars from her face. We see the 2 of them in the car. Grandma is aloof.
Oh? I didn't notice. Never seen him before.
I think he's up to something much deeper than we know.
Shea half pulls out the note from her pocket and looks at it before putting it away and looking out of her binoculars.
And I'm going to find out what it is.
Exterior storage facility, continuous. The men inside the facility close the back of the truck and the storage locker. They all get into the car. The guard stops the car at the gate. The man rolls down his window.
You can't leave your truck there.
We'll be back in 45 to unload. We just want to grab some lunch.
The guard turns away from the car and heads back to his booth. The gate opens and the car leaves the facility. Interior station wagon, continuous.
Did you hear that? We have 45 minutes. Let's go.
Shea jumps out of the car. Grandma doesn't get out of the car. Shea's head appears in the open window.
Come on, I need you to distract the front gate while I hop the fence.
Grandma gets out of the car. Shea is already looking up and down the fence for her best place to jump.
And how am I supposed to do that?
I don't know, you'll think of something.
Grandma looks bothered. She walks over to the booth. Shea looks for bystanders. When she sees Grandma start talking to the guard, she approaches the fence. Shea starts climbing the fence. She makes it up quickly, then throws her jacket on the top to cover the barbed wire. She makes it over like she's done this before. She grabs her jacket and jumps off the fence in one fluid motion. She hits the ground and stands up with her jacket back on. She puts on sunglasses we have never seen before. She looks badass. She runs to the nearest row of storage lockers. She looks over to see Grandma still talking. Shea sneaks along the edge of the lockers until she gets to the row with the truck. She looks around, no one in sight. She runs down the row to the locker. Shea grabs the lock. It's only dummy locked. What luck. Shea pops the lock open and pulls up the door. It's empty except for a small box of tools at one side. Shea rushes over to the truck. This lock is actually locked. She starts trying to guess combinations. Damn, this is hopeless. Shea looks around in frustration, so close, she kneels down to the ground, sobbing.
I'm sorry, Grandpa. I lost it.
Shea rubs the tears out of her eyes and tries to collect herself. She notices the toolbox in the locker. She rushes over and tears it apart. Eureka! Bolt cutters. The cheap gym lock breaks off with ease. Shea throws at the door. The sun shines bright into the back of the truck and twinkles off the toaster. Shea smiles and jumps into the back of the truck and grabs the toaster. She holds it in the air. She hugs it close. She feels like she has found a lost treasure. Knock! Shea's heart sinks. She slowly turns. It's Grandma. She smiles and rushes over to her, toaster in hand.
Look, I found it. Let's get out.
Grandma's smile quickly turns to frown as Clark enters.
Not so fast. I believe this property all belongs to me.
This is a family heirloom. It wasn't supposed to be in here. Tell him, Grandma.
Give us a moment.
Clark leaves, and Grandma turns back to Shea.
I sold all this to Clark to cover the debts. Your grandpa left.
But the toaster, it's magical. It's worth so much more. You were there.
I was there. And that toaster was never magical.
But I saw.
It was Grandpa. It always was.
Interior, grandparents' house, kitchen. Grandpa is hand-burning the designs into the toast with a stencil and a small torch. He takes particular detail with the lost island. He places a stencil in a box Shea pulled out earlier that day in Grandma's salvaged possessions. Exterior, storage facility, return to. Shea's face changes from being heartbroken to excitement.
Wait, I saw a box like that at your place.
Of course. I saved them. They're older than your grandpa.
That's it, the note.
Shea pulls out the note and hands it to Grandma.
It's not cut off. It's the toast.
What are you talking about?
Shea opens her mouth to explain everything. Interior, grandparents' house, kitchen. Shea and Grandma are standing looking at the floor. There's a large piece of white paper with all the stencils lined up perfectly next to each other. It shows a beautiful map. The stencil piece with the lost island looks well used. Shea looks to Grandma and holds up a small tub of paint and a paintbrush.
Want to go on an adventure?
Cut to black. Interior, Grandma's storage locker. Night, post-credit. It's raining heavily, lots of lightning. We slowly move in on Clark from behind, who is sitting on the floor of the new full locker. Over his shoulder, we reveal that he has torn apart the toaster. He looks frustrated. He stands up with part of the toaster in hand, throws it to the ground, and screams.
You haven't stopped me yet, Davenports. I will get to the Lost Island.
Cut to black.